Live from a half-used matchbook from Lucky Strike in Soho, New York, stained lovingly with the juices of a romantic steak frite. It's your daily dose of malnourished and highly educated biz nuggets, joined as always by eloquent Emma Lurking and stood up by the mighty Matt Moscardi. I'm a dime a dozen today in our recyclable bag called, well, really, it's in our recyclable bag called November 15th, 2021. We dig into a new IPO, sniff around an upcoming annual meeting, preach on dirty CEOs, call out a JP Morgan banker, and discuss the enormous wealth and power of the Mormon Church. What? We do?
Yep.
Really?
We do.
Oh.
Kind of.
All right. Let's begin. Time for a weekly company meeting check. Cracker Barrel Old Country Store's annual meeting will be held on Thursday, November 18th in Lebanon, Tennessee. Full disclosure, because I am a horrible person and constantly make assumptions, I have already prejudged Cracker Barrel to be a terrible place. I'm feeble-minded that way, but when I opened the company's proxy statement, I noticed a bunch of things that I wanted to celebrate. Number one, they got some damn fine COVID protocols at the company's upcoming meeting, defying Lebanon, Tennessee stereotypes, such as requiring proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test, conducting health screenings, enforcing social distancing, requiring facial coverings, a company that believes in science in Tennessee.
Whoa.
Scrolling down, I noticed that the CEO is a woman, Sandra Cochran. Go ahead, laugh at me for being simple, but this is still an unusual occurrence in 2021, so I'm going to celebrate it if I want to celebrate it. Scrolling further, I see that 3 of 6 of Cracker Barrel's top executives are women. Holy shit, another small victory for my pea brain. And lastly, and this is the big one, scrolling even farther to page 58 of all places, there's a board diversity matrix that not only defines demographic background, including white, black, Asian, Native American, etc. Pretty cool. But here's the big one. Here's the kicker. A gender identity section at Cracker Barrel with the options male, female, non-binary, and did not disclose gender. Wow. Cracker Barrel. Who knew? Come on,
Not
would you
me.
have guessed that, Emma? You would not have guessed that.
No, never.
But
I never
before
would've guessed
one
that.
gets too excited, of course, I happen to notice that 64% of voters said no to executive pay at last year's annual meeting. A true shareholder revolt. So something fishy is clearly going on in Cracker Barrel's patty melt. Ugh.
It sounds kind of like you're insinuating that there's fish in their burger. So
Exactly.
we're going to have to talk about that some more later.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. A former JP Morgan Chase banker by the name of Daniel Grant has taken it upon himself to fix the most pressing issues that the modern American investors face. You might be asking yourself, what is the most pressing issue that modern investors face? Well, you ignorant slob, according to Mr. Daniel Grant of Second Vote Advisors, there are simply not enough unwoke investing choices for the conservative investor of today. Mr. Grant founded Second Vote in hopes of constructing indexes and ETFs focused on unwoke companies. So, for example, so far Second Vote has launched the Pro Second Amendment Index, the Society Defended Index, and the Pro First Amendment Index, the American Freedoms Index. According to Mr. Grant, companies like Coca-Cola and Meta, aka Facebook, who have prioritized ESG principles, only harm their profits by doing so. So for a bit of context, back in June of 2021, Coca-Cola did a promotion that allowed customers to design their own labels, but participants obviously had to operate within certain restrictions. So for example, you couldn't use Black Lives Matter, but you could use White Lives Matter. You couldn't use gay pride, but you could say, I am Hitler. So, yes, Coca-Cola, certainly too woke, certainly too ESG for the modern conservative investor. And as for the Meta example, I won't really get into it, but given their penchant for climate denial and QAnon conspiracy content, they're basically campaigning for Bernie. So Mr. Grant is right. Everything on the stock market is built with us snowflakes in mind. And I'm so glad that he's finally giving conservatives a safe space on Wall Street.
Here's to the unwoke, Emma.
Here's
Up
to the
next,
unwoke.
time for a weekly IPO check, just because I like to sniff around and see what's new. Here's the headline. Braze aims for $460 million U.S. IPO. Braze provides organizations with customer engagement and communications technologies. Okay, sounds important. Braze is listing on NASDAQ and uses a dual-class share system where owners of Class B shares receive 10 votes per share. Hey, NASDAQ, enough. It's 2021. Can we stop this 10 votes per share bullshit? And you know what else? The company is debuting as a public company with only one female director. Seriously, Braze, you're embarrassing yourself. You hear that, everybody? Do you want to invest in a cloud company in 2021 that still thinks it's 1991?
One female board member? Isn't that now not allowed, basically?
Come on, Braze.
All right. Moving on from Braze's incompetence. The following pun was 100% intended, so listen up. The Mormon Church and Tesla sort of seem like a match made in heaven. Haha. I'm not sure how Mormons feel about heaven in all fairness, but I'm just going to call it a win and move on. For those who don't know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has a $100 billion fund run by Ensign Peak Investors, which is just the name of the church's equity management arm. They recently bought 35,000 more shares of Tesla that are now worth about $462 million in total. And I just personally love the idea of Tesla and Mormonism together because they're both institutions that are built on pre-existing infrastructure that were co-opted by one guy with a huge ego. Joseph Smith and Elon Musk would be the most amazing best friend pairing I can possibly think of. And it only makes sense that Tesla and the Mormon Church take credit for other people's shit and then turn it into something evil and profit off of it for eternity, or whatever type of eternity that Silicon Valley bros and Mormons believe in.
Just one note. I promised not to talk about Kimball Musk's brother, but Emma didn't promise, so she's alive.
I didn't promise a thing.
No. And finally, following up on a story on Barclays' former CEO, Jess Staley, that we covered last week. He resigned last week following the results of a 2-year inquiry by British financial regulators into Staley's relationship with the disgraced pervert and shithead and dead man Jeffrey Epstein. A new report today from the Financial Times indicates that Staley exchanged 1,200 emails with Epstein that included unexplained phrases flagged by regulators such as Snow White. A lawyer for Staley said, "We wish to make it expressly clear that our client had no involvement in any of the alleged crimes committed by Mr. Epstein." Of course, Staley's relationship with Epstein was so close that Staley visited Epstein while he was serving a prison sentence in Florida for procuring a child for prostitution. That's the guy the CEO of Barclays visited. Staley has said their relationship began to taper off in 2013. However, just a few months before joining Barclays in 2015, Staley sailed his yacht to Epstein's private Caribbean island, and he also allowed Epstein to mentor one of his daughters during her college application. Why am I pointing this out? Because it gives credence to why Business Pants and Free Float Media exists in the first place. A corporation is not a faceless entity. It is composed of living and breathing people. Know who is running your company. That's all I got, Emma.
Well, it feels a little bit hypocritical because we want people to know who's running the companies they invest in. And meanwhile, one of the people who runs our company, not even here. How are people to know who he is if he doesn't even show up? Regardless of the show up, that was Damian Rollis. I'm Emma Lurking. These were your Biz Nuggets for Monday, November 15th, 2021. Hopefully Matt shows up. If anyone sees him, please let us know. He runs off on occasion, and it's tough getting him back. So we'll put up the lost dog signs pretty soon.